Welcome to Vibrancy podcast, where we discuss entrepreneurship, industry trends, and the occasional book review. If you're watching on video, I'm in a unique place, not my typical recording studio. Yep, that's because I am in New York. Before I get into the whole episode, I want to start off with a video from Naval Ravikant. So let me share my screen, kick that off. All right, so I'll play this.
I actually think where you live is the single most important decision you make. But the first part of that is making a decision. I like to think that even if my parents had not immigrated to the US, I would have probably done so at a later age because I was ambitious and I wanted to be around smart people and I wanted to build things. When I immigrated to the US, I was not in any position to go to Silicon Valley and build things. I had to kind of, claw my way there. And I got there a little later than I should have, frankly. But at any given time, in the world's history, there's usually only one or two places that really matter in terms of moving the world forward. So there was a time when it was Athens in ancient Greece. There's a time when it was Florence in Italy. There's a time when it was London in the United Kingdom. And the time when I was kind of coming into my formative years, it was Silicon Valley. And I knew that. The first time I used an Apple computer, it was an old Macintosh in the computer room in my high school. I just fell in love with it, and I just knew that I had to get closer to Apple. That was the thing that pulled me in. When I got to Silicon Valley, the first thing I did was, with my bags, I went in a taxi straight from the airport to Apple's headquarters, and I wandered around. And I'd read this book by Guy Kawasaki called The Macintosh Way that was very inspirational to me. So at some point, if you have high agency, if you're a person that's self-motivated, which I think almost everybody watching this is, you will end up where you're meant to go. It's just going to take some effort.
So that video encapsulates my visit to New York City. I was in between two places, San Francisco and New York City. And I've never been to San Francisco, but I know what San Francisco is kind of about. But when I was thinking about the idea and the things that I wanted to execute, I was also thinking about the key resources that I would need in close proximity. And I would relate this to if I was traveling to Mexico City or my travels in Tokyo or Seoul. When you go to these new places, you've got to figure out what are my key resources. And this is subjective to yourself. My key resources was, if I need to get a quick bite to eat, like what are the two places that I could go to? If I need anything from the grocery store, like where are the two shops that I like? If I want to work out, where's the workout parks at, or where's the gym? And figuring out a way to settle into an area quickly makes sense when you have key resources. But when you're starting a company, the key resources are the places or things that allow you to be successful. Simply put, like if you're traveling somewhere, identifying the key resources as quickly as possible, and then making sure that you know where they're at and you have a relationship with those resources. If you're traveling, for example, to Tokyo, you'd have 5 items that are crucial to you. Same thing when you're starting a company. What I need for my idea is I need close proximity to the reinsurance market. I need to be in an area where if I needed to meet with investors, I could. I need to be somewhere where if I needed to take a flight internationally to London or Bermuda for the reinsurance market, I could. And also be somewhere that would be considered a cluster for financial services or insurance. And so when you're looking around in the US, there's only a couple places where that qualifies. And that would really be like in New York or Chicago. But New York is really the place, like with all the insurance brokers, reinsurance brokers, which is people who get insurance for insurance companies. That's typically done either in Bermuda. They've got a pretty big cluster in Philly and New York and then London. And then there's some stuff in Germany with Munich Re and stuff, but for the most part, those are the clusters. And so those things are really important. And if I want to do what I want to do, that's where I have to go. So I was giving it a trial run and seeing how I like it, and then getting a feel for the land, and if I think in my head I had a hypothesis that if I spent a couple weeks here, it would be very productive, and just the magic of the city and the magic of life and putting things out there and getting things back would just allow me to make progress on my ideas, which has been true multiple folds more than I expected. It's crazy what New York can do. It's just like a weird thing where you're just at a bar with somebody and they wind up being some like the person that you should meet. Like it's so weird where it seemed consistently that I was meeting these people that I always needed to meet, like they were just on the cusp of exactly what I needed. It's hard to describe, but in this episode, I'm going to be breaking down my experience in New York and a little bit of Washington D.C. and yeah, just giving you an update on life and my progress with the startup. So first off, let's walk through the agenda. So I got a startup progress update. Then we have my experiences in New York City and in DC. And then that's pretty much it. And then I'll go over some meetings I had and just personal experiences in New York and how cool it was. And yeah, okay. So first off, I would like to start with Washington, D.C. So I was able to spend a couple days in Washington, D.C. with my friend Luke, and he just moved there for a big job. Congratulations to him, by the way. He's doing great. And he's settling in, and we spent some time. And he also has a Equinox membership, and I was able to be a VIP guest, and we got to go to yoga classes and go to the sauna, steam room, and then after which we would take a cold shower, really cold shower, and the water gets pretty cold up north, which I am less familiar with. Yeah, we were doing that literally like every day. It was almost like I went to a wellness retreat because typically, you're the boys from college, post college don't go out off that often when we're in town. It just gets rowdy. We're more like, oh, okay, so we're gonna do yoga at 8 a.m. Then we're gonna work out. Then we're gonna do 20 minutes of the sauna, 20 minutes of the steam room, and then we're gonna do a 5-minute cold shower, and then we'll do a hot shower, and then we'll start our day. And that's what we did all the time, like after work or on the weekends. So for like the 4 days there, I think of the 4 days, 3 of the days I spent like 2.5 hours a day in Equinox, just spawning out, just having a great time. Oh my gosh, my back and my body and just my mind was recovered. So nice. Those classes are worth it. Those yoga classes really unlock you. There's a class like unlocking your body, deepest stretch you've ever had in your life. And oh, loved it. It was great, honestly. And I like yoga. It's just that I don't go often enough, and I do yoga in my room, and I do lazy yoga instead of for real yoga. And when you go to those classes, it's for real yoga, and I appreciated it. So definitely a fan. Would love to do some yoga. I might cancel my gym membership and then do yoga. Like go to a yoga studio, cancel my gym membership and do a yoga studio. But I don't know. I like yoga a lot, but I think yoga 3 times a week would be perfect. And then Brazilian jiu-jitsu twice a week, and then running 3 times a week, and then like strength workouts in between all that. That would be great. But if I do a yoga plus Brazilian jiu-jitsu plus like swimming, I want to be able to swim. Before you know it, I've got like $300, $400 worth of health and wellness subscriptions. Whereas Equinox could do all of that and it'd be $250. And I think that's where the value of Equinox comes in, where if you're interested in the classes, like I like the cycling classes. I haven't done them at Equinox, but I like the cycling classes. And then I love yoga. I would like to get into Pilates. So just on that note, because I know people really harp on Equinox, but hear me out. If you are interested in doing yoga twice a week, like that's probably $50 a session, or a subscription for like $150 to go to like 4 classes a month. Not 4 classes a month, 4 classes a week. If you want to do Pilates, similar thing. So we could just call it 100. And then if you wanted to go to a cycling studio, that's probably $25 a session. So, and you wanted to do that, or a subscription for like $75 or something. And that's not even a gym. Those are just single studio things. So then that'd put you at the subscription cost more than Equinox. And then it doesn't even have a gym. And then now you'd have to get a gym to go swimming. But then you're probably thinking like, Dalton, I don't need to be doing all these things. Like, I'm not a professional athlete. And fair enough. But I like to do all those things simply because I find them fun and challenging. But the issue, and to be fair, I haven't done Pilates before. But anyways, that was a really big tangent on something that was pretty minuscule. But I thought it was hilarious how we went, and it was just a wellness retreat, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It's not for everybody, but I was like, yes, this is awesome. I'm in. And then after that, we went out, I think one night out late, and we went to this place called Lucky Buns for a hamburger. Phenomenal hamburger. It was like $9, $10, top 5 hamburger I've ever had. And then after Lucky Buns, we went to this place called Dan's Cafe. And Dan's Cafe is some kind of legendary grungy dive bar that you're drinking out of condiment cups, and you are located maybe on a pool table with a blue tarp on it. The lights are all flickery, it's dirty, and it's just packed with people, and they're drinking out of mayonnaise and you're drinking out of ketchup. Somebody might have mustard. And the tables in the bar are those plastic stand-up tables. And you get in there and they're like, oh, it's $25 or something. And they're like, all right. I'm like, okay. And he's like, I think it was $15, but $20 total, because you had to provide a $5 down payment on your, or $5 deposit on your condiment cups that you were using in your 2 shot glasses. We got pineapple and rum, because we were pirates, which I thought was a great theme chosen by Luke. And so we're pirates, and it's just these condiment cups. You're drinking out of ketchup and stuff, which I thought was intriguing. So you go and you get your juice and your alcohol, and yeah, you're just like talking to other people that are drinking out of their own little weird contraptions. So it was a pretty cool experience. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. It's kind of hard to get access to Dan's because they're only open like 5 hours on Friday and 5 hours on Saturday, and they're closed every other day. But if you have the opportunity and you're in New York, not New York, Washington, D.C., definitely give it a shout. It's a good shout. Like, definitely give it a go. So that was D.C. Moving over to New York City. Loving New York City. New York City is just a different animal, especially from coming from DC. It's just like it hits you hard in the face. Like, just DC's raw, it's unfiltered, it's fast, it's exhilarating. It's everything you'd ever want it to be. And it's only been here for a couple of weeks, and I love it so much. It's great. I think one of the key things, I was talking to somebody randomly at the bar yesterday when I was eating lunch, and I was talking about how DC is a lot of things, but one of the things that I think it's great at is that it's unfiltered, right? Like it's unfiltered life. You could see the tragedies of life and mental health issues on the streets. You could see the polish and the the staturing of status and all these other societal things where people are like, well, I live in East Village or West Village, or I'm in West Village, like right next to the West Highway, and blah blah blah. Like, it has everything you could ever want, and you can almost do anything. You can almost find anything at any time. Like if you wanted to do something, and it's a random like 4 a.m. on a Sunday, there's probably something that there's probably something that is related to what you want, which isn't something you could say that is everywhere. And it was refreshing to be in a big city like New York City, and it's not in a foreign country, because Tokyo is sick. Seoul is so sick, but it's cool. But I can't read Japanese. I don't know Korean. And I love the city. It's interactive and people are nice. But at the same time, like I'm still a nuisance. Like I don't know the language. To communicate with me, it takes so much longer than it would with anyone else. And it's sometimes difficult. I mean, their subway system is great, but sometimes it's difficult to like get around because you don't read the language. And I can read Spanish somewhat, like a middle schooler, and maybe speak like I'm in third grade or something, like a little kid. But I know no, like I can't read Korean or Japanese. Like I don't know what they're saying at all. So unless it has English or something, like I have no idea. So getting around and communicating in New York City has been so easy. It's just crazy how easy it is when the signs are in English and everything's in English, and like you can kind of know what, like I know what downtown is or uptown is. Like it's just very, very nice and refreshing. And I love it. I love it so much. It's crazy. It's such a great experience. So let me start with some social stuff first. In New York City, Luke was able to come in with me. We took the train, which was great. Like it was only a 3-hour train ride, and we just popped up a hotspot and worked on the train on Sunday. Just got some stuff done, and then got in, got our place, and stayed the night. And then we rendezvoused the next day. I did some exploring, and he went to a museum with one of his friends. And then afterwards, we met up later that night, and we went to. Luke's really into jazz, and so we went to a jazz show and saw this guy named Doc. He was great. I don't listen to jazz that much, but it was great. Like there were some times when he did the electric slide, I think it's called, where you put the little thing on your finger and you slide. He ripped the guitar crazy, and that was a really fun experience. Then we afterwards they were like, "Oh, like, do you want to just grab a beer at somewhere or speakeasy?" We're like, "Sure." So then we went to this place. It was a speakeasy inside of Five Guys. I'm sure it's somewhat famous. I just don't remember the name. And so we went in there. Good spot. I think it's in East Village. That place is East West. Yeah, East Village. And yeah, we went there. It was super cool. Like the vibes are great. The music was great, and it was late on a Sunday. I'm pretty sure it was, yeah, Sunday. And it's just like you can do anything at any time in New York City. Like it was packed on a Sunday at 11:30. And that was just one night. To do all that in one night where I'm from, or just in general, is difficult. And then it wasn't planned. Everything was spontaneous. Like, oh, do you want to? We were getting dinner, and he's like, oh, do you want to go to a jazz show tonight? I'm like, sure, yeah, let's do it. And so we just picked up tickets. Tickets were like $15, really cheap. And then afterwards, we went to that speakeasy, and that wasn't planned either. Like, we just got done with the jazz show, and we're like, like, do you want to call it, or do you want to hang out for like another hour? And we're like, dude, I'm good for another hour. And then after that, we went to the speakeasy. Like, none of it was planned. It wasn't like this whole planned itinerary thing. Everything was spontaneous. And to do that stuff spontaneously on the cuff of a conversation, it's pretty cool. And that was one day. And then we also went to the Comedy Cellar, and I saw Mark Norman along with other comics, and that was really cheap. It's like $15, and you need 2 drink items or 2 items. I got a sandwich and a different drink. It was like a total of like $30 or something, not including tip. But once again, to do all those things in that short amount of time, like that was like Sunday, and then Tuesday did that. Just every day I was doing something incredible. And then on top of that, I was meeting great people as well. And I'm not searching these people out. I'm just walking around the city, eating at a bar, and I just talk to the person to my right or to my left. And it turns out these people are fascinating. And they've got interests that might be related to me, or they're just intriguing in general. For example, I randomly was met with someone that was connected with, reinsurance, and was able to pitch ideas to them. That was great. And see what the interest was for the startup idea of the event cancellation thing, and see like, hey, like, would you guys even be interested in something like this? And they're like, yeah, we would. That actually sounds pretty cool. You just got to think about it a little bit more. You got to get the right story together. And, we'd want to see the pricing and the risk aggregation strategy. But on a high level, 10,000 foot view, this idea seems pretty cool and legit. And we just wanted to see a little bit more baked. And then we could have additional conversations, which is great. And then I ran into somebody at the office that is connected into reinsurance as well. And he was able to provide some pretty good advice, but he said the same thing. He was like, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. Like, this is intriguing. Not sure that this is the only idea you can get, but the general thought process and the application seems to be there. And like, it sounds exciting. Like, the market would definitely be interested in this. Just have to, once again, he said, like, you just have to get this, you'd have to get the story pretty baked out, and you'd have to, you know, it has to be more than an idea. And I was like, fair enough. So just putting together the right story and pitching it, because you're basically raising capital for them, either if you want to do a hybrid front or a fronting carrier, where like a hybrid would be like you would take some of the risk, and otherwise if it's like a different situation where you don't take the risk, it's a harder conversation, and you have to convince someone to like take 100% of the risk, which is difficult, but we'll see how it all plays out. I'm sure that I'll be able to get something. Like, I'm sure that I will be able to get results. It's just I don't know what the results will be. That was that. So I met with 2 people from reinsurance, and then I was at a bar watching the game, and I randomly was at this like, I guess it was a reinsurance bar, and they were talking about surplus lines and reinsurance and commercial, and I overheard their conversation, let them finish their thought. I just introduced myself. Hi, my name's Dalton. I work in insurance, and I'm interested in parametrics and maritime and some other things. And they introduced themselves back and was like, hey, I'm actually like a senior person at Guy Carpenter, which is a really big reinsurance company. and I'd love to have a chat with you. And he gave me his card, which is nice. And he sent me a text message. So that was just me just walking about the city, doing my own thing, minding my own business, and just checking into the city and asking for some things. And the city just gave it right back. And like this conversation I had with the guy yesterday, his name was Roy. Roy is some senior engineer at Amazon, and eventually wants to found his own company. But it wasn't that I'm searching for these people. I literally just asked the guy, "Hey, are you a photographer, or is this just a hobby?" And he's like, "Oh, I just wanted to get a hobby and become a little bit more interesting. I wanted to try something new and learn and make memories, kind of thing." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And then I kind of talked about his little hobby, and then he started asking me questions, and then before you know it, that was that. The rest was history. And I got his number, and he said that he's had a couple of his friends that graduated from Y Combinator or other incubators, and that he'd be willing to connect me with them and help me out, and also provide advice on the application as he did with his other friends. And I was like, wow, incredible. And then later that night, I'm waiting in line to get pizza somewhere, and the guy's like all the way in the back. He's like complaining to his friends. He's like, "Oh man, like we're really gonna wait in this line because the line's long." I went to John's Pizzeria on Bleecker Street, which is a famous pizzeria, and I wanted to go there before I left. And so the guy's complaining. I turn around. I was like, "Oh man, don't worry about it. It's only 5 minutes." That's what the guy said. And he's like, "Really? 5 minutes?" I was like, "Yeah, 5 minutes." And the guy looks at his friends, and his friend is like, no, like because the dude I was talking to turned around, and I was like giving the thumbs up and kind of smiling, smirking at the other guys. And he's like, "Really? Like he said 5 minutes. It's only 5 minutes. I'm good with that." And his friends were like, "Dude, he's messing with you. It's not 5 minutes." And they're like, "Oh, really?" And then I was like, "Yeah, I was messing with you." And I was just like, "Oh, you gotta. Sometimes when your soldiers are when your soldiers are losing hope, you've got to give them something to keep pushing, or something like that." So it's something like, when your soldiers are down, you've got to give them inspiration. I said, when your soldiers are losing hope, you've got to give them inspiration, and then push them a little further. So 5 minutes from now, another 5 minutes, and yeah. But it was left to like that. Like, if the soldiers are losing hope, give them some inspiration. Everybody thought that was funny. And then there was these two women behind me, directly behind me, that thought it was hilarious that I did that. And we wound up sitting next to each other, and we hadn't really conversated that much. But afterwards, after we picked our order, they did half pepperoni, half cheese, and I did a full cheese because I was like, "Oh, like I feel like the cheese is the classic, and that's the original, and that's what you're really supposed to get." So like, "Oh, I'll do that." And then I was like, "Oh, half pepperoni sounds good." And they ordered half pepperoni. And then I was like, let me change my order. And it wound up being too late. And it was kind of weird how it was too late, because like, we're literally sitting right next to each other. Like, I'm at a table and they're at a table, and we're connected. And I ordered, and then they ordered. And then I tried to change the order, and she tried to change it, and it came back cheese, which is no big deal. I didn't really care. But anyways, it sparked up conversation, like, "Oh, what's up?" They started talking to me, and then from there we started talking about like what they do and where they're from. And then they asked me like why I'm here, and I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to trial New York City and see if I want to live here and eventually start a company here." And they were like, "Oh, really? That's awesome." And they were asking me questions. And then eventually it kind of went into like a full vetting of my idea. And they were like, "Okay, so like, what if this happens? Like, how would you do this? And like, how are you going to secure partnerships and distribution? And do you think that the maritime is better than the event cancellation?" And they were kind of like really ripping me. Like it was a good conversation. And like one person was like an AI person at Adobe, and I don't know what the other woman does, but it wasn't, once again, I'm not searching out for these people. I'm just waiting in line and I am just talking to the person next to me. I'm not going into networking events. I'm not searching these people out. Like I'm not looking up on the maps like, okay, like where is the office of Aon or Guy Carpenter, and then picking bars nearby, like trying to rub shoulders with certain people. I'm literally just exploring the city and walking about, getting food, getting a drink. And before you know it, the city's just giving back. Incredible. Incredible. Like me getting that much stuff done. Oh, and I met with one other person that was a graduate of Y Combinator, and they said that they would help me with my application for any incubators. And they've helped quite a few of their friends and have had a great hit rate on their applications, 100% so far, which is awesome. So once again, the energy of the city and what it's giving back in such a short amount of time without me. Whoa, sorry about that. My my mic had just fallen. I guess my cord got wrapped around my foot and I moved my foot and it ripped my mic and it fell against the table. Sorry about that. I hope everyone's ears are okay. So getting back into it, I know I'm kind of repeating myself where I'm stating the city is giving me so much in such a short amount of time without providing any like legitimate effort. Like I'm not attacking these things. I'm kind of just flowing and going with the flow. And while I'm flowing, I'm seeing things that are very interesting and or valuable. So that, all of that, plus the vibes of New York City and how cool the buildings are and the energy, I'm all in. I am legitimately all in. No doubt in my mind that if I move to New York, I can become the person I want to be and consistently execute the things and the goals and the ambitions that I have. It can be done in New York City, no problem. Like there's so much opportunity here. There's so many things and people willing to help you that it seems like almost anything is possible. Love New York City. So the next thing, since I've made some serious progress with the startup idea, I really need to get down and start working on the MVP and secure a co-founder. To do those things, the MVP is easy. The co-founder is a little bit more complicated, but I can apply to these incubators without a co-founder, and then they'll force me to get a co-founder and they'll help match me up with somebody. So that's fine. But I do need to work on the MVP and start building out the machine learning model that deals with frequency and severity and running through the weather data from the history of the United States of America and putting that together and getting a classification model of whether something would occur, is predicted to occur or not. And if it does occur, having a separate model run that would predict the severity of the occurrence. And then from there, I could create a pricing model. Those things aren't like too hard, but they will take some time. Like they're quite time consuming to clean all the data. I'm sure that the governmental data that I would be obtaining is from many different sources that I've got to data wrangle and put together, and it's going to be a pain. And then afterwards, that's good. And then I'll have to build out some kind of thought process on distribution or securing distribution for weddings. And I was thinking there might be banquet owners, like big banquet owners that own quite a few wedding venues in the United States, or there is wedding planner websites who has the the need and the ability to allow me to go onto their platform and be an additional offering to them and add value to their customers while making it easy for the customers. Like ideally the venue's already stored in the system and the user just clicks like, oh, like I want automated event protection, clicks the button, and then that stuff is sent to me via API. I encode it, get the lat long. Then from there, I would quickly run the classification model if like an event would occur, and then wondering whether how big the event is, and then getting a price. That's how I'm thinking it. Like high level. That's how I would think it. So it's like a one click. Okay, it comes back a couple seconds later. Boom. Here's your price. And if I could have it like that, and it's super smooth, integrated into another platform, I think you got something there. Where if it's super easy, smooth, and you could capture an already established player and add value to them and to their customers, I don't see why they would say no if what you're doing is compelling. That's the gist. So that's the next thing I'll be working on. It seems as if there's interest in the reinsurance market. There's interest with the investors. A high possibility that I can get into an incubator, given my conversations with people that have graduated and help others apply. So really, the only thing that I need to execute on is MVP, distribution ideas, and vetting that. And because if I can't secure distribution, then I might have to, like a distribution partner or partners, I might have to change the idea. But I'm sticking with automated event protection. It'd just be a different application, some other event. There's many events, so I'm not worried about that. And the next thing would be getting a co-founder, and hopefully I can do all these things async. And within probably like a month and a half, I should have something. And then I put in my application, and then after my application, I would have to move to San Francisco for 3 months. And then after that, I would probably live at my Nana's for 3 months and live as impoverished as I can, hopefully starting to get revenue for the company. And then from there, move to New York City, live in a sweatshop, some kind of sweat house, like some founder house that's got hopefully, 4 or 5 other founders. And we just live there and cook and we just make cool stuff. That would be perfect, because once I found the company, I'll have to quit my job, obviously. Like once I raise money, I get accepted in the incubator. Like the date that I start the incubator, I'll have to quit my job. And when I quit my job, I'll lose all my salary. And when that happens, I won't be able to take a salary for the startup. Like a large salary, like you could take up to, I would say 50 grand is acceptable, but I would like to get everything squared away with the reinsurance market and the other thing before I do that. And probably more ideal if I get access to the MVP and distribution partner, and then the only thing I'm waiting on is reinsurance, then I can start taking salary. But that, like, reinsurance might take, hopefully it only takes 6 months, but because what I'm asking for isn't that intense, like it's not that much money, but it could take a long time. Like I've seen reinsurance contracts and deals taking 18 months, minimum 12. So for 6 months would be crazy. but I think it's doable simply because like the things I'm asking for wouldn't be intense, and it could be like a really like all I'm asking for is a chance in a trial program. So I'm not asking for like 100 million of cover or whatever the case may be. I'm literally like, okay, let's try to write this year. Let's try to do, let's see here. Which price is 100. I'm working on my calculator right here. Let's just say 185 average premium. Okay, so let's try to write 2,000 or 27,000 contracts. So that's not that much. So I give you $5 million in revenue and premium. That would be, and that's low. 185 is low. I'm just being very conservative. I really hope our premium to be average premium per policy to be $300, which would put me at 16,667. But if you say it's 27, right? That was the 27 was the result. If you say 27,000 divided by 2.1 million, that puts you at a 1.2% take up rate of the whole market. And I think it would be doable. I would really like 5%. Like 5% year one would be sick. And if you could get two key distribution partners that deal with, say, 25% of the market each, and then the take up rate within those are, say, 10% or 5%, like 5% of 25% is, decent. If you have 50% and 5% of 20, of the 50, you should be able to get good results. Because not everyone needs insurance. So not everyone cares about it either. So that's the gist of it. That's the idea. And the next thing is just execution and moving forward in a sustained manner instead of bursts of inspiration. Sustained progress instead of bursts of inspiration. But that was my update for New York City. And I hope that you enjoyed some personal anecdotal information for myself. And I hope that you find the episode intriguing and informationally, I wouldn't say informationally dense, but informationally light, where it's just kind of you just listening and hearing my experiences. Well, until next time, the next episode I wanted to discuss Gemini and Google DeepMind. They have released some cool stuff, and I want to put together a demo and talk about that. And so I'll do that when I get back from New York City and from my business trip in Dallas. Until next time, I hope that wherever you are in this world, you have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for listening. Hope you listen in next week. Goodbye.